Hey, good afternoon everyone. This is Tractorman 44. Here it is a few days before Christmas, and I mean it is really a nice day. But that happens every now and then. But hey, you know us guys, you see us guys working on these old tractors and stuff all the time. A lot of times you get real lucky with some of these been setting for a long time. A lot of it has to do with the way they've been stored, and if you're lucky enough to have one that's stored in the right conditions, you have good luck, with getting them to fire up. I've had my share of luck, and I've had my share of not being so lucky. And a lot of times, we come across these old tractors and machines. You pick them up pretty cheap, and you think you get a bargain. You come home and get to working on them, and you find out that lo and behold, you've got a massive engine repair to do. Guys like us, we're always looking for different tools and accessories that's going to help us make these kind of repairs, a little bit better. You hear people talk about sleeved engines and non-sleeved engines and things like that. A non-sleeved engine, you typically have spaces between the cylinders that allow you to bore the cylinder out, 10,000s, 20,000s, 30,000s, whatever, and that becomes what they call an overbore. And then you can calculate, the diameter of the cylinder, the length of the stroke, and all that kind of stuff, multiplied times 4, 2, 4, 6 or 8, and calculate the amount of cubic inches or percentage of increase you've done to the physical size of the engine displacement. But then again, you've got engines that are what they call sleeved engines. Sleeved engines, you don't actually bore the engines, you just merely pull the sleeves out and press in a replacement set of sleeves. Now, some of the sleeves engines have O-rings at the bottom and everything. Alice Chalmers, I think, is one of them's got several of their engines got O-ring retainers at the bottom of your sleeves. Other ones don't have any at all. There's an epoxy you can use, at the very top of the liners whenever you press them in, if so necessary. But at any rate, you got to figure out how do you pull these sleeves out, because they're very, very thin. Sometimes they're so thin you can actually kind of collapse them with the screwdriver and stick a screwdriver down around the outside, and then what'll happen, you can just literally collapse the liner and then just pull it out and throw it away. It's not a big deal. Then go ahead and hone that and then press in a new liner. That doesn't work all the time. Sometimes guys reach down inside there and they'll weld. They got to be a better welder than I am, which ain't saying much, but they'll reach down in there and they'll weld a bead around the liner that's actually stuck in the block, and whenever that heats up and then shrinks down as it cools, it'll just break that liner apart and they'll pull out. I've heard many people having good luck with it. A buddy of mine had a guy do that, but he burnt a hole in the liner and scorched the inside of his block, put some barnacles in it, and it became an expensive repair, so I wouldn't recommend that. But at any rate, I've always got my eyes peeled at these auctions for engine repair tools, and I need to drop off some of the sleeve pullers, sleeve arch and things like that over at my brother's house so he can get busy working on this old tractor. So let's take a look at some of this stuff. You hear all the time about grinding your valve seats and things like that. Well, that's essentially what we've got here. Your valve seats have different angles that they're ground at, and so you can see there's a variety of different angles, on these grinding stones right here. You have to have a combination of the correct angle that you want to grind them to and the correct tools or the accessories that attach these to the handheld machine that you use to get that done. And so that's what this is here. This is a whole selection of valve grinding compound. This is a whole selection of different types of wheels, angles, and that. Here's an example right here. Like on the outside of this box, that says 45 degree. So this here, if you're going to be grinding your seats at 45 degrees, this is it right here. You'll just go ahead, you see it's threaded here on the end, and it takes this diameter right here that this one is. This one here is very badly worn, but I leave that on there so it don't damage the threads. But you can thread this guy onto there like that. And you think you might be ready to grind the seats by plugging it onto the tool, but it's not, because this can wobble all around and really do some damage. So there's a set of guides, and depending on the diameter of your valve stems, this being the valve stem here, but depending on the diameter of your valve stem, it'll determine what the diameter of your guide will have to be. I'm just going to pull this one out at random here. This guy right here happens to be a 7/16 guide. So this will fit right up inside this tool right here. That's an alignment tool. There's a set of bearings inside that tool right there. But this will slide down into your engine, and it will align right into where the valve stem inserts into your engine. Like when your valve goes down into your engine block, this will insert right into there, but it has to be the one that's the specific diameter of your valve guides. Now you have an alignment, and you're ready to go ahead and attach your tool onto here and give it just a bit of a touch. Of course, you've got to use your appropriate valve grinding compound. Here's a variety of them here, more valve grinding compound. There's different grits depending on which of this you're using. But you don't want to spend a whole lot of time on them, because you mess up your valve seats, you've got an issue. You're going to have to be changing your valve seats. Well, that back there's got all the different valve guide diameters. I've got to take this back off and put it back in this box, because this one's brand new. I also keep my eyes peeled for a box of these. You never know when you stop by a farm auction who's going to have a pile of these things setting in place. You can never have too many of them, because quite frankly I don't even know where to buy brand new ones. I've gotten by all these years with just this old stuff. So at any rate, when you have this setting on there, you have to make sure you have the right drive on the tool that you're using here. This is a handheld device right here that matches up to this right here, and it just sets in place, and you hold it like this, of course with your valve guide stuck through here, and now inserted down into your engine block, right on your valve seat. And you can hold this right here, and that's when you can pull the trigger and give it just a little bit of a touch. Now, like I say, you don't go crazy and grind your valve seats way too much, because you're going to definitely damage your seats. This here says angular high-speed driver for valve seat grinding. It's a Sioux tool. You just cannot have too wide of a variety of these things, in your repertoire when you go to working on these old tractors, because you never know what you're going to run into on these old tractors. Now, what you can do with this guy right here, you can set your grinding wheels through the different bushings and stuff that are on here. You set your grinding tool on here, and if you look at this right here, here's your angles, but here's 0, there's 75, 60, 45, 30, all the variety of angles that you would typically use. Okay, now if you can visualize that handheld angular drive tool I just showed you that you use to grind the seats, you put that on there. This has to be securely mounted. You go ahead and spin this. As you spin this, and you've got this adjusted to the angle that you want, you can go ahead and drop this down. As this is spinning around and around, you drop this down by use of that arm, and you can sharpen or reset the angle that you want to create or maintain or just touch up. All right, now real mechanics, probably just laugh, what I'm telling y'all. But, I'm not a real mechanic. I just kind of mess with these old machines, and we get them running, we use them around here, And so do not consider myself to be a qualified mechanic that knows a whole lot about all this stuff. Just know enough to be just this side of being dangerous, you know what I mean? But anyway, when you get real fancy into your valve grinding, you have to stop and think. You've got a valve seat that's at a certain angle. You want that valve to come in contact with that seat at that matched angle. But what happens is if you grind the entire surface of your valve at that exact angle, you increase the potential for carbon to getting stuck underneath those large surfaces. So what guys do is they'll make a multiple grind, almost trying to make almost a semblance of a circle or a half moon on the valve seating surface, maintaining only a tiny portion of the valve at the exact angle that the seat is ground at. That way you minimize the chance of anything sticking whenever that valve comes in contact with the seat. The wide area is going to trap a bigger piece, and it's going to give you a burnt valve much quicker. So those guys are the guys that are really, really good. Now, I fiddled around with one, and I did it, and I've had pretty good luck with it. That engine's still running pretty good this day. But that's not what we use these machines for. That's the valve grinding machine that's inside the shed. It's a bench mount device, and it continuously circulates the liquid over top the fancy little grinding tool that has all the little angles and all this kind of stuff. And you can just take those valves, you can grind the valve stems off shorter, so where you can adjust the lengths of your valves. You can actually, and this is where you grind those multiple angles onto the seating surface or not. I've done a couple of them where I just made them all up, and those, by the way, they're still running and running fine too. But again, my tractors don't go to the field with the throttle wide open pulling, gas tank after gas tank 8, 10, 12 hours a day anymore. They just don't do it. So they don't work that hard. They just putz around. So that's probably why I'm having such success with those. So you know what? This might be the end of the video, and if it is, hope it didn't bore you too awful much. And this is Tractor Man 44, and I am out of here, guys.